class is on what's your landscape worth. There's some new studies that just came out in March. Thought I would share that. And I've seen this study over and over. They do this every 4 or 5 years. This is the first study I've seen since the uptick again. So before that, all the studies were from Texas A&M or whatever. They use Realtor.com, National Real Estate Association, all these big folks that really have interest in selling property. They do these studies. Of course, I have interest because I'm kind of in a roundabout way tied into the landscape. And so, and I'm going to send this article to you, the latest study. It's kind of dry because it's a lot of numbers, and it's related to garden centers. So it's kind of like, from an industry standpoint, it's not consumer based. It's professional based. But I'll send it to you. You can have a copy, a link. It goes right to the magazine. It's from Garden Center magazine. Yes, we are big enough to have our own magazine. Every industry. I'll bet septic sewer suckers have their own magazine. So here's where to buy the best boots. Anyway, Charlie Hall, he's a good friend of mine. He's a professor at Texas A&M. He does a lot of studies for agriculture, homeowners, that kind of stuff. They came up with, they were doing studies of homes that sold, and then they took a survey and said, was the house nice? Like, was the landscaping, specifically, was the landscaping nice, average, or bad? What they came up with was a nice landscape actually produces more money than you put into it. So you buy a tree, it's the only home improvement you can make that will actually gain value. So every dollar you put in, you get $1.09 out. Whereas a kitchen, I put that right up there, $1.09, a kitchen, you put $1 in, or probably more like $40,000 in, you get 92 cents back. So you never get all that money back, other than enjoyment. So Lisa and I, we just did our kitchen just because we wanted to. We knew we were not going to get our money back, but we just wanted another kitchen. Bathrooms, 73 cents. Every dollar you put in, you get back out when you sell your house one. Okay, so that's kind of the most recent study that came out. Sid Roush, he's a consultant for the industry. He's been out here, he's a friend. I've taken him down the canyon. He runs right now as the CEO of the largest online tree salesman, Bower and Branch. He's their guy. He says that home just sells faster when it's a nice landscape. And Lisa and I, we've sold several homes in the area, and when our house goes on the market, just like that, because the landscape is so nice. You just drive by, you go, wow, I like that house. It almost doesn't matter what's inside, as long as it's good. When they see it, they remember it. It's a trigger point going, when I go in, it looked nice. When I left, it looks nice. It looks nice. And so, and then your value, there's different, depending on who's looking at that, the value of your home goes up upon selling your house by 11 to 20%. I'm sure the realtors are saying, probably the landscapers say it's 20%, and the realtors say 11, but you see different studies back and forth on that, but it falls somewhere in there. Realtor.com. They did, again, they got a lot of online data. They're doing data mining. They found out that the home's 28% of your home's value should be into the landscaping piece. That's patios, grills, hot tubs, pools, that stuff outside. And I think that applies especially for the Southwest because we live outdoors. We spend more days outdoors than, let's say, Minnesota, or someplace that's colder, just because we can enjoy it so much longer. The National Association of Realtors said when you put a landscape in, 75% of people, they did a survey of their clients, however they do that, 75% have a greater desire to be at home if their landscape's nice. 65% have a sense of enjoyment from their home when they put a nice landscape in, and 79% have a sense of accomplishment. Well, I know I'm talking to gardeners because you're in a garden class at a garden center, so you know that. When you finish a project, you go, gosh, look at what we've done. Look at the tomatoes. Right now, I just picked my first tomatoes this week. Ate them for dinner. They melted in your mouth. Anyone else pick tomatoes this week? Yeah, I beat you, see? So I got to get on the radio, so I always try to beat everyone else. I go, I just picked my first one. It's almost bragging rights for gardeners, isn't it? Like you want to say, I just picked. We've got squash coming on, the cucumbers are about that big, flowers are really nice. But now when the rains come, this is when you need to do some maintenance. So some things that I have done with my own landscape. So they go on and on and on and on, Realtor.com. Anyway, I could go on. They do a lot of studies, a lot of quotes, kind of dry. Then we'll get into the rest of this. But basically, what they found is, yes, you get $1.09 per square foot per dollar in back, but that's only good for a certain amount of time. If you don't maintain it, then it actually starts to lose value again. So there's a trend because there's a bell curve. So they explained it kind of like paint in your house. If you still have avocado and orange like appliances, your house might be dated. And so if your house is overgrown, when it looks like a jungle, now it's losing your money. So you need to maintain it. So some things I've done just this week, I did it last weekend, I did my summer pruning. People don't realize this, but I want my plants to stay under control. I'm heavier planted than most, maybe. It's therapeutic, it feels good, but it doesn't feel like a jungle. It feels designed. So it feels like you want to be there, like this was made for you. Enjoy it. That's what I want it to stay like. So this week, I deadheaded my flowers. So my meadow sage has been in bloom for 2-3 months. There's old sage that just grows. It's a wildflower. It had spent flowers. So now, I got 4th of July coming up. Big parties at our house. Everyone's invited. Not everyone. But family. It's kind of going to be a big family thing. I want to trim that up. So I deadheaded them and I fertilized them. And so I'm setting the stage for that. So in a couple weeks, probably they'll be budded. They'll start to flower again. I get a whole nother flower cycle off of those. My Jupiter's beard, Ceanothus, is a native wildflower. It's been in bloom since March. It was fabulous. It's now going to seed. So I went ahead and I deadheaded those, and I'll fertilize them, and they will, well, they instantly look better, and then they'll bloom again. So I'll just fertilize them. They'll just have a whole another bloom cycle. So if your iris, if your spring blooming penstemons, I've trimmed those back because that's a spring bloomer. They look pretty ratty. They won't bloom again. My penstemons, I wish they would. They'd be great. But at least they look better. And so I trim them up. So all I see is the foliage. I just took those spent flowers on it. But it's amazing. With the monsoons about to hit, if you could trim things back, they'll have a whole other bloom cycle to them. It's really exciting. So it's unique to the mountains of Arizona where we get this wet pattern in the summer. So that's some things I did. Also, my oaks. You know, I've got some scrub oaks that I left, a few strategic ones. They're so tough, so durable. I went ahead and trimmed those back because they pushed this much growth on them, and they were nice and within their bounds. But then they start reaching out, and then now you're scraping your shoulders on them. They're just they need to stay in their bounds, otherwise they'll take over the planet. So I just cut them right back. In the summer, I just did this. So my peach trees, I picked the peaches, say that 10 times fast, and then they put the suckers on. So that new growth comes up, so they put on like this much growth. So if you want to keep your fruit trees under control, summer pruning. After you pick the fruit, trim off those suckers, and they'll keep their size to them. So my peach I'm growing in a container. So I want it to stay proportioned. I want it to look balanced, not overgrown and then hanging down. So I think you can do some simple things. I didn't spend much time on it. I just had my shears. It kind of went out quickly. Then I don't have rock. I don't like rock. I like to cut it and leave it. So I just mulch it. I just add to the mulch layers so it's easier to maintain for me. That's how this gardener does it. A lot of you have crushed granite and just rock. It has to be pristine. Perfect. Well, then blow it when you're all done. So it takes you an extra step. So those are some things that I think help you maintain and keep that value higher than just letting it go. Some of you just bought your house, just bought a previous house, and we see this quite often. Older people, they could take care of older gardeners especially. They loved planting, and then they just got to the age where they couldn't quite do it as well, but they didn't hire a gardener to help them, and all of a sudden it started to overgrow and overgrow and overgrow. Now you just bought that property, and you got to do like 10 years worth of makeup to get it back under control. You may even need to remodel it and just rip out. Like I got a neighbor a few streets down, his junipers went crazy. They were reaching out into the road. The driveway was encroached. The sidewalk was gone. And so he went, well, I'll just burn them back. And they butchered them right back to nothing but stems, trunks. They're never recovered. He should have just taken a chain, wrapped it around the base, tied it to a bumper, and pulled it right out. And just started over. Sometimes you need to start over. So the way I think of it as an investor, I have some real estate stuff that I do. As a commercial, I have a big commercial property. I'm always trying to add some freshness to that mix so that I can get a tenant in faster, so I can get customers when they drive by, it looks better. Some landscapes, you can almost date them when they went in because they've never had anything else added. So I try to add 10%, about 10% every year, something fresh. It could be as simple as just annual flowers. But I try to add a new tree. I actually will cut down, so the trees out in the front landscape, those are not meant to be forever. As soon as they encroach the front entrance to the facility, I want you to see Waters Garden Center. I want you to see the greenhouse. I want you to see the parking lot. Hey, there's more. All are welcome. Not obliterated by shade trees. So they'll be in there for maybe 10 years, and then I'll cut them down. I'm fully expecting I will cut those down and plant fresh ones. It'll be something new, something you've never seen, something you can only buy here at Waters Garden Center. So I'm always trying to add some style to my landscape. And some of your homes, you get this $1 million house, you need to do the same. Some of your landscapes are bringing you down. Landscape was meant to accent the architecture that you have and actually lift it up. Fence lines, fences are basically ugly. There's no way around it. And the newer homes are using cinder block a lot. That's like classic Cold War era Russia style. I mean, that's like gray, sterile, radiant heat, and there's nothing good about it. I know you might like it, but it doesn't add value. So you need to soften up some of those lines just so it doesn't feel, it should feel like a secret garden, not like a bricked in prison. So you can change that just with a few strategic plants. Something in the corner, a couple vines on a trellis, all of a sudden, 5 plants later, it feels like you're welcomed here instead of imprisoned here. It feels like you want to be back here. The party, we should be playing volleyball and kicking ball with the kids, and we should be enjoying that space. But without it, it's painful. And I understand if it's a second home or something, you just want ease. You just want to blow in, enjoy the cool air, then go back to Scottsdale. There's some of that. There's something to that. But then, even then, there's some lower care maintenance natives that you can use. And we'll get into the plants here in a minute. But just setting the stage for you, going, how do you have a nicer landscape that adds value and enjoyment? There's some just real simple maintenance and design ideas. Maybe we'll sketch a few things out if we get into it. What else have I been doing? I think the number one thing you can do right now, did they bring that? Yeah, they did. Fertilize, summer fruit birding. Fertilizer in summer. We're about to hit a rain cycle. We don't know how much rain we'll get, but July and August is some of our wettest months of the year. We need it to be very wet. We need, 6, 7, 8 inches of rain over that time span. Just afternoons, 2 or 3 times a week, we need it to rain. And it will. The humidity will go up and you'll feel it. We'll go from, what is it right now, like 5% humidity? It's barely measurable. So that sucks the life out of the plants. It'll go up. You'll see it skyrocket to like 30% humidity. That's high for us. It's not like the southern humidity of 100% is 100 degrees out and you melt on the asphalt, but it's a good humidity. So that all helps your plants to that heat stress they've had. The leaves are wind whipped, so they're torn. I did see the snails and slugs. They came out after that last rain. They're getting onto my potato vine. They're eating the little holes. So I'll bait those guys. So some things will start happening. Everything will start growing here as soon as we get that first rain. Insects, mildews, leaves, plants, flowers, everything starts growing. It's like a greenhouse effect. So watch that. Put it on your radar. Be more, walk through the gardens and watch that so you can respond to it faster so it doesn't get away from you. So if you see any kind of issues, come see us quick. But what I'm doing right now, or what I'm telling folks, is anything stressed, I'm putting Humec on. This is a great, I'll put it right there, a tremendous, it's not a food, it's a, let's see, there we go. I knew I shouldn't have walked around. So Humec, it feeds the soil. That's all it does. It actually, what happens is plants get stressed out, they start to dry out, they'll actually lose root mass. And so you're getting some damage, or grubs, or some other insect damage. What Humec does, it helps plants, it's like an antibiotic. It's like stimulates root growth, is what it does. So you sprinkle on the soil, and it's actually feeding the mycorrhizal fungi, the beneficial, the worms. It's feeding those things, and as they become alive, the plants go, wow, something's going on in the soil. This is good. This is a good thing. They know better than me. I should start rooting now. So it helps plants get recovered. So if you've got some stressed out plants or new plants, you just want more roots on, Humec is your real ticket. I would put that on ASAP right away while it's still heat stressed. Put it on then, and then in a couple of weeks actually fertilize it with the all-purpose plant food. You'll get more root hairs forming, and when that rain comes, you will see that plant will just rebound, it'll just rocket better. So it'll make a difference. So that's the best advice I can give to you right now, just because so many customers are coming in with stress, just heat stress, drought stress. I just helped a customer, his aspens hadn't even leafed out yet. I'm going, they're probably dead, but no, they're pliable. They're good. It's green underneath the bark. He's a gardener too. He's a hardcore gardener. I went, okay, put Humec on. Let's water it in real good. Let's see what happens. So I'll bet it'll start leafing out. I think it'll be tiny leaves. It'll be years before it will actually recover. But I'll bet he can get that thing to come back just by Humec this week. A couple weeks now, all-purpose plant food. Did it bring all-purpose? That's actually a food. So that's 744 fertilizer. We make that for plants here. I would encourage you, stay away from the chemicals. The turf builders, the Scott's, Miracle Grows, the stuff, they're petroleum-based, so they're chemical-based, nitrogen source. They release really fast. So you put that on there, all the nitrogen is released within just 2 or 3 weeks. And so if we get heavy rains, all that food is released and it flushes down the dry washes. Because we don't get, in the monsoons, we don't get this slow drizzle rain. We get gully washers, like an inch of rain in 15 minutes. That's what we get. Woof. And so all that, it's all released and then it flows down to your neighbors. Or what I think it does, it goes down into the water table so you and I get to drink it again later. So I'm trying to train folks the way our monsoons work, and because we're all drinking well water, I think we should stop using as many chemicals like we do in California, the Midwest. They're big on their chemicals. We should use organics. And so this is organic. So I've stopped selling all chemicals. I'm selling natural products because I'm going to sell 3 truckloads. I don't know how many thousands of pounds that is, but it's tens of thousands in the community. I have a responsibility as a person that sells fertilizer to sell the right stuff so we don't taint our water source. Yeah, in the back.
Is that one application? Is it foliar or broadcast? Or?
Oh, good question. So he's asking, how do you apply that? It's granular. Both of these are granular. So you'd spread it. I usually just walk around my hand spreader, spread it around, and then I pray for rain. I do not work fertilizers in the ground. If you got to do that, that is too much work. I'm the laziest gardener ever. So I chuck and I go. Both products. So the Humec, H-U-M-I-C, it's humic acid. They did play on words with that. If you take a compost pile and you break it right down to its last element, humic acid. Really good for plants. They respond to that. It's kind of dirty. So wear your gloves, because you will have, it's like a mocha. It's like spreading instant coffee. It's just like that. You spread it around, releases, water will hit it, it will break down and go in the soil. It'll go through the rock, it'll go through the fabric, it'll go through all that stuff. That's why you used weed fabric, not plastic. Same with the all-purpose plant food. Its main ingredients, cottonseed meal. It's got some bird guano, some sulfur, iron. I put some fairy dust in there. I mean, it's magical stuff. It does work. It really does work. But it just goes through the soil. If you just can't handle that, and you're a gardener, and you have to work, go ahead and work it in if you want. But for me, the rain will do it. The other trick, too, with fertilizers, don't think in terms of your drip system. Your drip system does nothing for fertilizer. So some folks, I've had some customers try to pour it around all the drip emitters, or don't do that. What fertilizer will do is it will be released when the rains come. It's all about the rain. It has nothing to do about your drip system. Your drip system actually is not even an irrigation system. It's a life support system. It's an IV in the arm for your plants. It simply keeps them on life support until the rains come. That's all it is. That's why they get so stressed out in June. But when that rain comes, all of a sudden they just flush right out. You've kept them alive. That's all you want to do this month, is keep them alive. And then when the monsoons come, they just rebound. They start going. Some questions in the back. Yes?
Are there certain plants that don't take well to these types of fertilizers?
So good. Yeah, good question. So she said, are there certain plants, should I have certain kinds of fertilizers for certain kinds of plants? At one point, I was the largest fertilizer dealer in the state. I've also been the largest ortho dealer in the state. Fertilizer is just a game. They make fruit tree food, so you'll buy more food for fruit trees. At one point, I had pansy food, geranium food, fruit tree food, rose food, evergreen food, lawn food, 2 types, maybe 3. And then I had the winter series of foods. Food is food. Just between friends, food is food. Just be consistent with it. And if you don't mind if I can sit down on my soapbox for just a minute, please stay away from that Miracle-Gro garbage. It's a salt-based fertilizer. I know they have $1 million campaign advertising, trying to brainwash us all to use Miracle-Gro, and they've done a good job. It's easy. At Costco, you can get it for $12.99, $20 bag. It's crazy expensive if you really analyze what it costs to use it consistently. But salt-based fertilizers with our alkaline water, our heavy minerals in our water, kills plants. I had more people coming in. I mean, it's an easy sell from a retailer. It's easy money. Just pile it up on a pallet, put it on a major end cap, it will disappear just like that. But then I kept asking, customers kept going, I'm having problems. Why is this plant dying? What's going on? And every time it was Miracle-Gro. And I went, that's a problem. And it was our water, our alkalinity, our heavy soils, our minerals, with that salt-based, it clogs the pores of the soils, of the plants. And you'll see it on the pots, let's say clay pots, you'll see this heavy, white, chalky, salty buildup. That builds up in your soil and clogs it up. So don't use that stuff. In fact, I would encourage you, don't use water-based fertilizers. Use granular-based. And here's why. This is hard for you Midwest folks. You got to wrap your brain around this. You came from an area in Wisconsin that had 8 foot of topsoil. 8 foot, that's taller than I am. That's huge. That's like real soil. You dig a shovel, just dig it up, and dig a hole and plant, and just walk away. I could take this microphone, throw it on the ground, it would grow. That's what great soil does too. We don't have topsoil here. There's no soil. In fact, there was a couple millimeters, and then they took that and scraped it off, because it's no value when you're putting footers and driveways and walkways and patios. So some of you are literally dealing with dead soil. There's nothing there. So you plant a plant, 2 years later, it hasn't grown, hasn't died, hasn't grown. It's just sitting there where it gets really yellow. That's all an indication of lack of soil, lack of food. So what you find is you'll have to fertilize more often here than you're used to any other place. Because of the mountains, and just the way our organics wash away with the monsoons. That's why the deserts have pretty good farming, and we have terrible farming. because our organics, when the leaves do drop, they do compost. We get a rainstorm at an inch of rain, and in 15 minutes it all lifts it, takes it down the dry washes, and it goes downhill. And so some of us, you hilltop folks, great vistas, terrible gardening. You've got to be real strategic on raised beds, containers, where are you going to make, you're actually blocking up boulders and trying to backfill some soils. So you have to be more strategic with some of your landscaping. So I recommend fertilizing at least 3 times a year. The most important fertilizing of the entire year is in the fall. That'd be, if you're thinking holidays, think Easter, 4th of July, Halloween. That's an easy way to kind of track it. Halloween's the most important because it's using that food to winter over. It's taking that food and storing it up in the root structure. And so it's kind of like fat reserves on a bear. They're going to hibernate for a while. Plants will actually take those starches in and store that. Plants that are fertilized in the fall, if we have a real harsh winter, they survive better. So we get less winter kill, less damage, frost burn, that kind of stuff. And it sets the stage for flower buds. So if you want lilacs to bloom, you want forsythia to bloom, you want roses to bloom, you're fertilizing in the fall. Always a season before. You use that food for the next season. Right now, you're fertilizing simply because you're taking advantage of the rains. The moisture that's coming, you can flush a whole other set of growth. In fact, that little tiny tree you just planted, it'll actually double in size just because you fertilized it and the rains. If you time things, it really makes a difference. So in the spring, because things are going to use all that food from the fall, so it's going to be hungry, keep it growing. In the summer, taking advantage of monsoons, and the most important fertilizer is in the fall. Okay? Easter, 4th of July, Halloween. Yes? You can over-fertilize, but not with water's all-purpose plant food. Because organics are this is good for the number of people, the accountants, the engineers, nurses, the folks who really track things by exactness. 20-20-20 is 20% nitrogen, 20% phosphorus, 20% potash. Okay, so that's about every fertilizer has. Our food is 7-4-4. It really doesn't matter the number. If you go 20% nitrogen, you can actually overdo it because now you can start to burn. Nitrogen's green growth. That's if you spill it on the lawn, you can actually have a spot. That's chemical burn. You overdid it. What happens here, especially this fertilizing, the summer fertilizing, with all the rains, it releases all at once, and so you lose most of that fertilizer. It just washes away. The plant never accesses it. It's better to go with a slow release over a long period of time. That's why organics are so good. They release a little food over like 3-month period. So you get a much more consistent fertilizer, so you get much more uptake. Even though the number is smaller, so 20% seems like it would be better than 7%, but it's not, because you've got chemicals as opposed to organics. I can go deep into chemistry, pH, all that stuff of plants. That's kind of my nerdy, I could go all nerd on you if you want, but that's kind of how it does. The only time I had one customer take it home, totally misunderstood, idiot, planted in the fertilizer. Planted the plant in the fertilizer. I'm going, no, I gotta be more. I gotta explain better. It's just my fault. Sorry. Yeah, don't do that again. Spread it out. Looks like salt and pepper when you're all done. That's what. Do the drip lines. This isn't really a fertilizer class, but it's such an important time. It's such an opportune time to have nice landscapes because we're coming up on that monsoon season. We're just one step removed. So by the end of the month, I would say fertilize. Just making ready for the rains. Okay. Anything else on fertilizer? We can move on. Good. Yeah.
Just one question on UMAC.
Yeah.
How frequently do you do that?
Really, I've got a handout on our website. If you go to watersgardencenter.com, there's a Learn button at the top. All the handouts I do for all the classes. I teach the college. I teach kind of all over the place. Any handout I use, it goes on there. There's one on fertilizing. There, what I say basically is use the all-purpose food 3 times a year. Easter, 4th of July, Halloween. In spring, also add soil sulfur. So I'm trying to set the stage to keep that pH low. Our pH is very high. The water is very, very high. So I say use that only once in the spring. In the summer, I say use the humic and the all-purpose. In the fall, just use the food. That's it. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, you just want the down and dirty, that's it. I go into 600 words or less on the whole sheet with pictures if you want to download it. Anyway, okay, good question. Good questions, yeah.
But the humic, you're saying only once?
Yeah, in
during
the summer.
Growing season, right. Okay.
Mainly because the reason I suggest that now, you've been watering a lot more now. So all that food you had in the spring, that's all gone. It's all been flushed away. So if you don't fertilize in the summer, things will start to go yellow on you. They'll stop blooming. The new growth will turn yellow, and they'll start dropping. They'll get wispy and thin. You'll see there's a lot, they're starving to death. It's a unique look, and I get spotted while driving past your house at 20 miles an hour. I can just go, yeah, ain't sprayed, didn't fertilize. I can just tell. So I'm trying to replenish that food so that it's got something to go through the rest of the season with. And then, plants are so stressed out by the heat. I'm stressed out by the heat. So if you know that's how plants are, just June is always hot and dry, humic helps to increase the root growth. So I have a more drought-hardy plant, a deeper root structure. Your plants will be much tougher. That too, we should touch on watering. Should we do that? I got a whole class on nothing but water. Seems to be an issue right now. If you've never used micro irrigation or drip irrigation or these really efficient ways to water, it's hard for my Californians, it seems like, or Northwestern folks. If you run that system every day for 15 minutes, by the end of the week, you've still given your plants no water. So it's a 1 gallon per hour emitter head you're using. 1 gallon, 15 minutes, that's a quart of water. A quart of water for a big tree is literally nothing. And in this kind of heat, it evaporates in a couple hours, it evaporates right up out of the soil. So you've got to figure a way to push that water down deeper into the soil. So the way you do that is you simply leave it on longer. And if you've ever used flood irrigation or heavy volumes of water, you just don't capture this. You don't figure it out. So you're thinking, oh, I'm used to 25 gallons per minute, not 1 gallon per hour. So it's all about quantity of water. So you almost have to change your thinking from how long did I leave this system on to how much did I give the plant. If I've got the plant a 1 gallon per hour emitter and I want a 15 gallon plant needs about 15 gallons of water a week, I might need more than one emitter head. I might need 2 or 3 emitter heads. I might need up to 2 gallons, a whopping 2 gallons per hour. And then leave it on for 3-4 hours twice a week. So you got to think in terms of, I think it's hard to, we're thinking in terms of time, but we need to be thinking in terms of quantity of water coming out of these systems. It's a reverse, it's coming at it backwards. But if you've had other traditional lawn systems, watering systems, that's how you always thought in terms of time. So people always go, Ken, how long should I run my system? Going, I have no idea how many emitters you got. There's some math on it. But probably you're watering an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours at a time for trees and shrubs, things that have big root systems, not flowers. The trees and shrubs, I mean, a tree has probably a 2-foot root structure and then it starts going out like this. You probably need to water, to get that water down far enough, it's going to take minimum of an hour, probably more like 2 hours to push that down. And then don't water every day. Then let it dry out. So about once a week for established plants, if you're really pushing that water down, it's enough. Because it takes a long time for water that's 2 feet underneath the soil to evaporate out for plants to use it, for it to dry out. So that will really help you, I think. We've got some technology coming. In fact, I'm playing with it now. We're setting up almost smart systems. We've got sensors that are Bluetooth back to the irrigation clock. In fact, we're putting them in our tree racks right now, where it will tell us when that tree is dry and automatically water the right amount, get us a certain moisture count. And there are homeowners systems coming out that I'm playing with as well for my own. I think there's technology is going to be really good in about 5, maybe 3 years. I think it's going to be anyone can use it, and the clock will do its own thing. But right now it's kind of clunky. I'm having some struggling a little bit with it, but it's training me, and I'm training it on how to cooperate and water correctly. But that's coming down the road. It's kind of exciting. Yeah.
I have a, speaking of, I have a hydrangea.
Yeah.
And I'm from Wisconsin, so it's different variety here. I mean, a different setup.
Right.
It is very limp. It's too much water, isn't it? If it's limp, it's
no.
too much.
So she's got a hydrangea for over here,
Yeah.
those folks on camera. She's got a hydrangea, it's going limp on it. That's going to be from, I'm hot, help me. Hydrangeas are really, they're crybabies. They get hot at all, they just weep and go, I'm so hot. And they lay down, so they need water. Probably towards the end of the day, or when it's in the sun, it starts to weep. So the sun goes down, it goes, oh, I'm okay. Perks right back up.
It's pretty wet, though.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's
Then
wet.
it's just getting too much sun.
Oh, okay.
In Wisconsin, you all don't know what sun is.
Yeah.
A mile up in Arizona, the days are longer. Well, actually, they're shorter, aren't they? They'd be longer up there, but they're just hotter, intense. There's not as much atmosphere to filter things out, so probably it's just getting too much sun.
So should I cut off the flowers and replant it someplace else? Or leave the flowers that are...
If you can get it to survive. So should I move it? Yes. Because it's going to struggle. It's just going to struggle. When should you move it? If you can, move it in the winter because you have less struggle, less transplant shock. Could you do it now? Yes, you're at a higher risk. Some things to watch.
We just planted it.
Oh,
so,
you can move it. Yeah, just move
yeah.
it.
I mean, we
cut the
planted about
flowers.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, move it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And could it go in a pot?
You can go in a container or in the ground, wherever. So hydrangeas, here's where it gets a little, just a second. Here's where it gets a little funky. Hydrangeas, you have to plant a reblooming variety, an ever blooming.
Right.
You can't go with a single bloom. I got to go on second year wood. In Wisconsin, you grow all of them out in full sun. It was no problem. Here, it takes just the right variety. I think gardenias are that way. There's several plants that you can grow other areas. You can also grow them here. We just can't grow all of them here. You got to do your homework or shop at the right garden center where they help curate some of that. They help you figure out which one's right for you.
Yes, it is.
So in the back.
Yeah, you mentioned once a week irrigation on an established tree. When do you know the tree's established? And on new trees, how often do you water?
Very good. Yeah, good. So question he said, for new plants once a week, and then for established plants, how often should I be watering? What we say is new plants twice a week. This is big trees, shrubs, things with a bigger root structure, twice a week. Flowers might be different. Lawns are different. Vegetables are different. Maybe they're a little more often. Right now I'm watering my tomatoes every day because they're kind of weak. Again, tomatoes are kind of wimps. They just get real dry, start getting limp, so I water them in the afternoon. My trees and shrubs I'm watering once a week. They are established once they have 2 seasons of root growth. They're considered established. Before that, they're more dependent on you because the root ball is just in that container. That's it. You need to encourage them to go out. So that takes a couple seasons mean a couple of years, spring seasons to really get going. So in 2 years they're established. At least for the first year, water them twice a week. That'll keep them healthy. Okay, good question. Okay. All right, what else are we at? So I've also got a list of plants I'm going to send you. Let me send this around if I could. Hey Ken, do we have a pen? I can have them write in this Sharpie.
I'll go get one.
Wait, I might have one here.
Michelle for the rescue.
Hey, all right, there you go. Here, just pass that around, would you? So what I'll do is, thank you, Ken, appreciate that. Wave to people on camera. Hey, you all. We had over like 1,100 viewers online last week. Last week was Firewise. This one's a little more obscure. What's the value of your landscape worth? It's not a very good title, so we'll see. But it's amazing online. You people should come into the store too. Don't just watch online. So anyway, I'll send to you this email. If you give me your email address, I'll send you Know What You're Worth. That's the article I was just quoting here, so you can see all the stats. It's the latest figure as of this year. Then I created a list. It's called the High Country's Top 10 list. This is what I give to my employees. You know, I hire master gardeners. They're a master gardener from Kansas, or Oregon, or some other place. So they know the plants, but they don't know the top plants. It's not by any means all the plants. At least they can put this in their pocket and go, oh, let me show the top 10 shade trees, flowering trees, top 10 flowering shrubs, fall colored shrubs, shade plants. It helps you get started and get familiar with the plant palette that's for here. I think if you're going to add a screen, this would really help you. If you're going to add a new shade tree, this could really help you, at least get you started. So I'll send this to you in a PDF format so you can read it on your iPad or desktop, whatever, or print it out really easily. And then I brought this up, probably not of interest to most of you, but I used to contract out all of our plantings. And so I came up, I needed consistency. So I said, contractor, someone that didn't work for us, I want it done right though, here's the spec. So exactly how big is the hole? How many emitters? How much mulch? Every spec. I've had a couple customers ask for this week, so I thought, well, maybe there's something out there. So I'll send this to you too. If you've got gardeners or something, you want a planter is going to come out, you can hand them this, going, do it this way. I want it just like this. Here's the plant, here's the mulch, here's the food. Plant it just like this, then go verify. Because otherwise, those guys, gardeners, they are shortcut guys. Digging bar, chuck it in, move it over, they'll never know. I got out of here. Now, give me my $50. It's that kind of thing. But hold them accountable, and I think you'll have better, more success. So it's how to plant. Okay. Those things are coming your way. If you're on our master list already, it's not going to come to you. It's only coming to the students that are here. And we'll post it online for you folks too. We'll put a link on there so you all can get it as well. So that's coming to you. Okay. Let's go down to plants, shall we? Just go over some things that grow well for here. It's kind of the summer mix. So what you'll find, there's really 5 seasons, not 4, the way I define them. We've got our spring season, which we've just come out of. Here goes my coffee. I don't care about the handouts, but my coffee. So we get the spring planting season, which we just finished. Yesterday was the first day of summer, wasn't it? Was that yesterday or the day before? So we're now in the summer season, so we just came from spring. Spring, and then I define June as its own month. June is perennial month. We grow perennials better than anywhere else in the country. Perennials are those plants that come back every year. So perennial and permanent, both start with P, is a good way to kind of think about it. Perennials take about 2 years to grow to look good. That's why they're a little more expensive. So an annual I can plug, and in 6 to 8 weeks I'll have a crop. So they're generally less expensive. So I plant them now, they're available this year. Perennials, I have to start them last year. So I'm holding on to them for a whole other year. So generally they're about $2 to $3 more per plant. Just because the farmers got to farm them longer. And a perennial doesn't look good until it's 2 years old. So it needs to be that old. I could sell it faster, but it'd just be a green blob in a bucket, and it wouldn't be very inspiring. So your echinaceas, which should have a flower like this, should be glorious. Gaillardias, all these perennials, they need to be 2 years old before they start to bloom. So all these blooming perennials down there, they're 2 years old. So I define June as perennial month because that's generally when all the perennials go into bloom. So if you were going to buy perennials, this is the month because you get to see them. It's okay to plant, shop on the internet, check a plant tag or see the color, but to see them in bloom, to touch and feel and smell right there, that's the best way. So June is unique in that respect. The reason we grow perennials so well, we get cold in the winter. Most perennials have to rest in the winter to save their energy to bloom. And then we're dry. They don't get the disease that many other parts of the country get. We don't get the spotting. We get a few things, but it's not like more humid areas where you really have to be a gardener to really plant perennials. Here it's easy. Chuck them in the ground, they start to grow. There's very few disease issues. Some animals Like, very few places in the country have javelina, wild pigs roaming around. Deer are pretty thick. In some neighborhoods, they're real thick. In other neighborhoods, not a problem. I think if you're close to the wildland interface areas, you've got some pressure from animals coming at you more. Whereas javelina, they just roam around the neighborhood. I've seen them downtown Prescott. They're everywhere. Deer, not as much. Antelope, not as much. That kind of stuff. But we're starting to see some elk in areas. So there's a herd in Skull Valley, Baghdad, that comes up the backside of Copper Basin. We're starting to see some out in Paul in those areas. They're coming down into the ranch lands. They're just grazing, take advantage of the water and the grazing, like cattle. You don't want elk. It's basically a big cow with legs that can jump any kind of fence. Struggled with them for years in Skull Valley. We had a herd of 15 that would come in. We're right on Kirkland Creek. Every night they would come in and water, come back, and they'd eat entire tree lines by the time they're done. So far, nothing here in the Quad Cities area. But I predict eventually we'll start to see that. So, okay, let's start over here with the trees, shall we? There's a lot of trees. So we do trees better than anyone else. Trees take a lot of property. They take a lot of real estate. Depot and Lowe's aren't going to do that. You don't get enough turns per square foot in retail. It doesn't make sense for them. But we love trees. And so this one here I've got right here. I use this one. Anyone know what that is? Mimosa or silk tassel tree. Grows really, really well, drought hardy. I plant this because it stays short, and we've got two of them here. I'll put this one right here too. Let's pull that around. There's two. If I had to do it over again, I would plant this one. This is called chocolate mimosa. Did you see the purple on it?
Yeah.
Really neat. And the flower is super, I'll get that back so you don't feel encroached on or underneath the tree. This one I find my hummingbirds, swallowtails are all over it. Monarchs love the flowers on top. I planted it in my yard because I've got the classic two-story house and the decks are up top. It's on a slope, so the gardens are down here. I wanted to look down on a tree where I could see the flowers right at deck level. And so now I can see the hummingbirds. I mean, they're right there, right at your face. The butterflies are all over the place, right at your face, at the top of the tree. The chocolate mimosa, the purpley one, that one is supposed to have the same flower, chocolate or purple foliage, and it doesn't put the seed pods on. There's a seed pod that comes on mimosas. I like that. It kind of shakes around the winter. Sounds like maracas going off. It's pretty sound to me. But the chocolate one is not supposed to seed like the traditional one. Big umbrella shaped, but it loves heat. I would say any of your locust family are going to do well here because they're smaller leaved and they'll take the wind. These can be messy. The golden locust, not messy at all. Very clean. Your Robinia, what is that? Purple robe locust. That one has that big wisteria flower that bloomed around Mother's Day, about a month ago or so. Very pretty plant. It can be a little messy, mainly right at Mother's Day when it's done blooming, but it blows away pretty easy. And the leaves are small, so it blows away. It doesn't put a seed or anything on. So those are things. Watch, if you're doing trees, be careful of what variety you're buying, because so many leaves get torn in the wind. So you need something, we're trying to find plants, trees, that have a little bit thicker leaf to it, or they've got a serrated edge where they give the wind more, so they don't look ratty. So I would never plant a red maple in my yard. The traditional Acer rebrum, the ones you Midwest or East Coast are famous for mountains of red maples. Don't plant that here. Here we go with blaze maples. We grafted a sugar maple, a red maple with a silver maple, and now all of a sudden we get a fast growing red maple that takes the wind. So you got to do a little bit of homework because we're up at this elevation where it affects plants differently than maybe you're used to from other areas. All my Phoenix folks, everything you've learned, you need to erase and reboot. It's just nothing translates up here because the seasons are different, the plants are different. Just that's desert. This is more four seasons. In the back.
What about, how do they handle the freeze?
These will all be freezing just fine. I think mimosa goes down to minus 40 degrees or some crazy cold that we'll never see. We do get cold every once in a while. Now this last winter was not cold, it was actually hot. About every 10 to 12 years we go sub-zero. It's very infrequent. In fact, we almost get cocky going, oh, global warming, yeah, with this all, we're a different climate now. And then it goes, kills everything off. And so I love it because it helps me buy another car or something, or put the kids through school, because all those plants have to be replaced. But even I get a little cocky. Those borderline zone 7, 8 plants, they get nipped hard or killed off all the. This year we saw a lot of death just because it was dry and hot. It was really sad, actually. We were seeing entire lines of plants die off. We call that winter kill. It was the plants didn't see moisture since November, and they got dry, and then they got cold all of a sudden with freezing, and then it killed them off. So we saw a lot of death. So watch that. You should water in the winter, at least once a month. Just keep things hydrated. It'll make a difference. Okay. This plant here, if you're into natives, let's do this one and this one. This is a small leaf ash. This is very drought hardy, tough. I mean, and some years it can be evergreen. It's a small tree. Gets maybe mid-teen, something like that. It's perfect for that driveway, roundabout, or the backyard just off the patio, someplace where you want a tree but it can't be huge. That's a great tree for that. You cannot give it too much heat. It takes our cold. I mean, once you get it established, no care is needed. So it's a great little ash. Now we also grow the other ashes, autumn fantasy, raywood ash, Arizona ash, modesto ash. We sell all of those. They're bigger, a bigger leaf to it, probably 3 times that size, and a true shade tree. I mean, it's big enough canopy to be substantial. Not quite as hardy as far as water goes, but if you watered it once a week when it's established, it'd be perfectly fine. It could go for years and years and years and years. The one right next to the evergreen, this guy, this is Deodar cedar, the fastest growing of the evergreens. So if you've got a neighbor that just bought that brand new Class A and parked it right on your fence line where you get to enjoy it as much as they do, it just blocks out the sun, I mean, just a huge piece of equipment, or the contractor that's bringing in debris piles and piling them up on your back corner and just muddying up there's all kinds, you bought a brand new hot tub, you just don't like the neighbors always turning their lights on the second you get in. There's different reasons you want privacy. That's a great one. Fast growing up to about 50 feet by 25 feet. It's a monster. Do not plant it by the driveway. The driveway will be gone within short order. Don't put it next to the house or you'll be cutting it down because it'll overpower the house. I mean, that's one that grows so fast that you want to put it out towards the fence lines, the corners, to soften up that block wall. That's a great place for it. Central leader, kind of looks like a Christmas tree. Of course, Colorado spruce is another good one as well. Not as fast growing though, but a good drought hardy, fast growing evergreen. These guys over here to the far right, left, you're right, you'll see the purple flowers at the top. That grows wild here. That's desert willow. So it's a great plant. Again, a native, once you get established, will go all by itself. Grows up to maybe 15, mid-teens, high teens, height-wise, and generally grows in a vase-shaped size. This one we happen to train into a tree-like form, which is very unusual. The native way they grow is more vase-shaped. But that's a great one. Hummingbirds love it. You'll see the little bean pods growing on it. Here's a little inside tip. If you pick the bean pods off, it will bloom again. You pick them off again, it'll bloom again. It will stop. It will not stop. This is our traditional native. It grows out Skull Valley, Baghdad, kind of dewy, Humboldt. All directions you'll see desert willow growing. We have a new variety out that's called Desert Beauty. Is that the name? Did I get that right? Timeless Beauty, that's it. That doesn't form the seed pods. and so it blooms more consistently. So it's a longer bloom cycle without any maintenance, just does it by itself. So that's a good choice. This one's famous because normally desert willows are pink flower with a little purple edge. This is pure purple. So we found a variety that's, I don't know, different color. Yes?
Can you plant it in the shade up against a fence, and is it deer resistant?
So can I plant that in the shade, and is it deer resistant? It's amazing. So right now I'm experimenting in my own gardens. We've got test gardens here. We've got my entire yard is a test garden. I'm playing with how much shade can sun plants take and how much sun can shade plants really take. So I'm trying to figure that out so I can help my customers. And I am amazed at how much shade that will take. The problem is I notice it doesn't bloom quite as nicely. It gets the more sun, I would say give it at least 6 hours of sun, and it will bloom like covered with flowers. In more shaded areas, it'll be thinner and it won't bloom as nicely. There might be some better choices for that. But I am amazed at how well it did. I thought, oh, this is doomed. It's thriving. It's doing really great. This one, you're seeing this famous. This is gorgeous this year. This is smoke bush.
Yeah.
Right now, all around town, the flower on top of this looks like it's on fire. It's a little thin, wispy
Have that.
kind of flower to it. Lots of them at Yavapai College. We put these in commercial settings because they're so tough. You just can't kill them. Low water. They're rock stars without any care. This is unusual that it's a tree form. Mostly you find them in a bush. Goes up to about, I don't know, this tall or so. Maybe a little taller if you encourage them. But that's a great little plant, deciduous. It'll lose its leaves in the winter. So is that. This is the only hibiscus that will grow here. Actually not, there's 2 or 3. It's one of the fewest and most popular, called Rose of Sharon.
Oh, my goodness.
So that's what that is. It's actually a hibiscus. Has a classic hibiscus flower, a little bit smaller than maybe you're used to in Hawaii or Southern Cal, but it makes up for its sheer quantity. But it's a classic summer bloomer. It does that very consistently. It gets up about head high in a ball shape. Again, unusual to see a tree. Normally you see a shrub, but we bring in some tree forms. It's been trained to do that, so you can put them in pots, raised bed, kind of have some flowers, some underplantings, and make it look good.
And that's okay for our winter?
Oh yeah, that goes down to minus 30 or 40, maybe minus 60. It's some crazy cold. So, but it is deciduous. It'll go dormant in the winter. This one is white fir. It's actually soft, where so many evergreens are sticky and pokey and want to bite you. This one grows wild up in the hillsides. So Spruce Mountain. You've seen a tree that looks like a spruce tree. It's not a spruce. It's a fir. It's kind of colored fir. So it's a native. Big Christmas tree looking branches, fast growing, but it's famous for its blue color. You just see that silver blue. It's a real pretty color to it. This is unusual. Brought this because you've never seen this before. A yellow butterfly bush. You've never seen yellow. They're always purple. Usually dark dye. It's always purple, variations of purple. But see yellow, we got this in this week. I'm going to be talking to gardeners. They'll get excited about this. So, but sea yellow is great. Butterfly bush, they call it that because butterflies, it is irresistible to butterflies. All type, painted ladies, monarchs, swallowtails, they all love butterfly bush. I think every yard should have at least one. If you don't like yellow, I've got purples and the other stuff too. This gets pretty big, this particular one. We do sell some shorter ones too, so stay short. So again, I wouldn't put this right next to the house against the eave, or you'd be cutting on it a lot. Be more maintenance than you're worth. Put this out by the fence. Put it out by the walkway, property line. Put it there. The butterfly bush is a great one.
Ben,
Yeah?
how do you prune those when they start getting too big?
So how do you prune butterfly bush? What I do, I'm the butcher. I always do this when my wife is not home, because she hates me to see the power equipment. I love chainsaws. And Roby's got a new battery-operated series of tools. It's the greatest thing ever. They have a head shear that's like pretty good. I just take this battery 40-volt battery-operated shear and I just cut it back by half or more. You can't kill butterfly bush. Russian sage the same way. You have to be aggressive with it or it will take over. So I just really whack on it. So I would say if it's up this big, I would cut it back hip high or so. Keep it down where you want it. I did not prune my butterfly bush this summer because then I prune all the flowers off. It's into its season, so kind of watch that. Don't prune your lilacs right when they're blooming or just about to bloom, where you cut all the buds off. You can do it, then you planted that for the flower. So because we're 4 seasons, I see a lot of mistakes, folks coming from warmer climates, they're not used to lilacs, they cut them back in winter, they tell the gardener, cut everything. They do. And they wonder why their lilacs never bloom, because they cut all the flowers off every winter. You always cut those back just after they get done blooming. Same with quince, same with forsythias, all those spring bloomers. You prune them back after they're done blooming, then you cut them. So kind of counterintuitive. Every yard should have one of these. I have many. Anyone know what that is? Autumn sage, very good. Comes in a lot of colors. This is a hummingbird's delight. They love it. It gets up about, I don't know, knee high or so. Kind of a cute little ball, low maintenance thing, drought hardy. It just does this from April through November. It's amazing. So this is one that would really benefit from summer feeding. If you give it that all-purpose plant food, it will come out with a whole other set of flowers, like it was a brand new plant. Daylily, lots of colors. So drought hardy, easy to work with, real fleshy root. The only thing to watch with this one, gophers can't eat the roots sometimes. Kind of watch that, but you don't have gophers, don't worry about it. If you do have gophers, you should kill them. They deserve to die. Heuchera, or coral bells, is what your grandparents call them. All the magazines. This comes in a lot of different colors. I use this a lot. It's a perennial, just because it's got pretty foliage. It actually does have a little flower on it. These are all perennials. They'll come back every year for you. Again, June is perennial month. This is one you see bloom every June. Yeah? What I do with this, I like to plant these in my tree well, or my trees. I think it looks unnatural to have rock going right to your trunks. It just doesn't look, it looks sterile, it looks odd. So I put these where that drip emitter is for my trees. I'll plant that right there, and it turns into this beautiful underplanting underneath my trees. It'll take sun, it'll also take shade. So as a tree matures, this becomes more shaded. But I would call this, I don't know if it's drought hardy or not, but I know it'll take the same drips, same cycle as my trees, which means for a flower, it's pretty drought hardy. A great little perennial. Comes in copper color, greens and chartreuse. Comes in a lot of colors. It's kind of a fun plant to play with. Midwestern folks, you know what this is?
Phlox.
Phlox, very good. I figured Wisconsin would know. This is a great plant. Now, there's creeping phlox, and this is a tall phlox. And just, you can count on this. Very few plants, perennials, grow like that kind of flower. And it's just getting started. You see all the flower buds. Still to come. It's really a rock star in your flower gardens.
So that's different than in Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, it's a spring flower.
Here it's summer.
Yeah, and here it's summer. And how long does it bloom?
A couple months, something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty
Yeah.
decent. And
Comes in 2 or 3 different colors. I've got reds and all kinds of colors down there. But again, if you looked at the picture, go, oh, that seems interesting. That's not the time to buy it. The time to buy it is in June when it looks like this. You go, I do like that.
yeah,
And it smells good. Yeah, bouquets and stuff. I use a lot of this in my yard because it's a native. Yarrow. It's tough. Butterflies like it. It's got a pretty color to it. This is one, when it does get done blooming, I'll cut it off, fertilize it, and it will bloom again. So we'll do that. Several perennials would do that for us. Now I brought this as an example. You folks from the deserts, you know what that is, right? Bougainvillea.
yeah.
It does not grow up here. Okay? So I brought it because so many folks plant it in the yard and it won't winter over here. We sell this at the garden center as an annual. So I love bougainvilleas. And I have a lot of container gardens. I put it in a container, I enjoy it for the season, and I fully expect it to die. Or I will give it to friends or family that live in Phoenix, down the valley. They take it for the winter. I do that with my geraniums sometimes. But I don't want this to live forever. I just want to enjoy it for the season. It's an annual. It's how I treat it. So if you're up here, it's not going to winter over for you. So I brought that as just, you're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. This is, you're in the mountains. We're not in the deserts. So cactus. Cactus don't grow up here. Prickly pears do, but saguaros and the other stuff, there's a few that I've got that we're trying to figure out more varieties. You're not in cactus country, you're in pine and juniper country, chaparral areas. I did bring this. This is actually, it'll start blooming here, as soon as the rains come, it starts to bloom. It's got this huge red flower to it. This is trumpet vine, huge flower to it, big flower hummingbirds love. Drought hardy, very aggressive, great for softening up fence lines and stuff, but this is a good replacement for bougainvilleas. Or my favorite is this. This is called chocolate flower, or akebia, 5-leaf akebia. It's one of the few evergreen vines that actually grows really well up. If you got a pergola or an arch or a fence line, an ugly chain link something, put it there. And I noticed that I grew it in Skull Valley in the orchard, and elk, deer, rabbits did not bother it. It was fine. So it's where you're in that, and you got some pressure from animals. This is a good one for that. So in the back, yeah.
Can I go back to the trumpet vine?
No, I'm on Akebia now. Back to trumpet vine, got it,
I
yeah.
have that, and it's like 6 feet tall, and it's trying to go somewhere.
Yeah.
The lady that I bought the house from has it on a wooden support thing.
Yes.
But then I've got my drain and the roof, and so can I just flatten that as it grows up?
Oh, sure. So how can I manipulate? How can I grow? How can I garden with trumpet vine? You can make this do whatever you want. Cut it. Let it go to the eave of the house. Don't let it grow anymore. Make it go sideways. Yavapai College is using this on the campus as a ground cover. I think you could use this on those hillsides. Let's say some of you have that cutout, got that stark wall that's up there. I think you could use that to soften up that wall so it feels like a garden instead of a rock face. I think there's a lot of application for that. Irrigation, where water is just coming down during the monsoons, is washing out that driveway. I think you could use that to retain as erosion control. It could be very good for that. The most famous, of course, is growing up a trellis somehow. So that's how we traditionally use this, or fence lines.
It has long canes. So is that how it's growing?
Yep, it grows just like this. Where it grows just like big old, and this will quadruple in size.
It almost looks like bamboo.
Yeah, but it's a vine though.
Yeah.
But maybe here's what to do if you're ever in question like that. iPads and technology that's out now, click a picture, bring it in. I probably look at 20 different pieces of hardware, devices a day. That's just me. That's time to staff. So it's an easy way to zoom in and take a close look. We can see most things. Bugs that are like this on a picture that's only this big is a little hard, but we can see a lot of that even. So this is called atomic red. So it comes in oranges, salmons, yellows. Oh, my glasses. Where else am I at? I think I covered most of it. So other questions. So I'll send you the top 10 list. I think that'll help hone you in on things, but yes.
Actually, you have nice trees over there, particularly the basket, but we are going into the monsoon. Is this a good time for that kind of planting, or should we wait?
Yeah, good question. So his question is, he sees the aspens, we're thinking about aspens, but worried about the season. When can you plant here? I think you're coming into a very good time to plant. Because of the humidity, it's going to go up. Soil's warm. I think you'll have better success now when the monsoon, that first rain comes. As soon as that happens, plant trees, shrubs, that kind of stuff. Because the soil's warm, it's humid, you get some moisture, it takes some pressure off. I find you even have more success in the spring. Spring you're planting, and the temperature is warm in the air, but the nighttime temperatures are bitter cold, and the soil is cold. So you plant it, and it doesn't root. It just sits there. It's waiting for the soil temperature to get high enough, and then it will start rooting. Now you put them in, instantly starts rooting just like that. We just immediately starts rooting. So I find I have a good success rate. Whether it's a spruce, a pine, aspens especially, your shade trees, very good. Trees, if you're planting trees or thinking about trees, make sure you stake your trees. the wind just gets them leaning to the northeast. And you can see folks that planted them and didn't stake them. All their trees are leaning to the northeast. Make sure you stake them. This is especially important for fruiting plants. If that apple tree or peach or apricot or plum loads up with fruit and it's leaning, I've literally seen them fall out of the ground. There's so much weight, they just drop. If they're straight, you got that scaffolding right, it takes that balance, it's more balance. Just some things I've seen over the decades of gardening. Yeah?
What about more native plants
Yeah,
up here?
sure. I've got a whole native section. Of course, I don't just have a native section, I sprinkle natives everywhere. Like this is considered a native. Every yard should have one. But I don't put it in the native section because it's too nice. It needs to be in the perennials, featured on an end cap, like a rock star. So more people plant natives. So we put them down the lower greenhouse. In fact, we're trying to find new colors of this. We've got some apricots, some purples, different shades of red. This is a radio red. It's a new red out, brighter red. So it's a new variety. So we're trying to scour looking for different colors that we can plant because it does so well here. I would think native, true native, grows wild in a lot of areas. Penstemon, true native. I don't put them in a native section, I put them in the perennial section because they deserve to be down there so more people will plant those, have more success. Just my philosophy. I do have sumacs and yuccas, prickly pears are over in the native section. So I've got some of that too, we can kind of help you with that. Okay, good question. Anything else? Yes, Wisconsin, you're awfully needy today.
How about the yucca? Can the yucca be planted in a container?
Oh yeah, so can yuccas be planted in a container? That's actually the look right now. At the front of magazines, it's yuccas, agaves, sedums, growing in big bowls, in containers. That's of course a classic courtyard look. So a big glazed pot with a yucca coming out. The only thing I would watch is certain yuccas are pokey and some are soft. Don't put a pokey thing in where the grandkids are going to run up against and skewer themselves with something. So kind of watch the traffic flow. So if I'm designing, I'll try to pick what variety I'm doing based on how much traffic might be right there. So just something to watch. So, but you know, grandkids hit it a couple times. Oh, as of yesterday, I am a new grandfather. Granddaughter Emily Rose was born yesterday afternoon. 6 pounds, 9 ounces, 19 inches. There you go. Yeah, that's our third. That's our first granddaughter, so we can't wait. We'll go to El Paso and see them here next week. So that's kind of good news. But again, my little grandkids, it's a way to connect. Your landscape is a way to connect generations, I think. So I call my oldest grandson Garden Guy Jr. Because we love tagging together. We will eat grapes until we're both sick, blueberries until we're just both can't eat anymore. We just love planting seed and watching them grow. There's the magic. I think the older generation can share that enthusiasm of being outdoors. It's easy, and it's easy to connect it with the landscape. And the introductory drug for all gardening, tomato plants. I mean, just anything that fruits, there's something magical about picking and eating that makes it joyous. So, all right, thank you all. Come out and take a look at the plants. I'll hang out and answer questions.